we go. Good afternoon, I guess good evening, good whatever it is time you are, wherever you are in the world. Welcome to the second episode of Creation Cast. You know it's good when you do more than one, at least. So we're glad to be back and talking Ashes of Creation. My name is Mike Washburn, at Mr. Washburn, on all the places. Let's go around the room and let the other guys introduce themselves too.
All right, I'll jump in there. I am It's Fane. Pretty much everywhere you want to find me, go to itsfane.com and find links to all of my socials.
There it is. Deku. Can't hear you, man.
Didn't realize I muted myself. Sorry. Name's Daku. You can find me on Twitch. You can find me on YouTube and all that jazz.
There you go.
Welcome back, everyone, to episode 2.
That is episode 2. So we just finished having the Alpha 1 test. It was funny, guys, because we weren't allowed to talk about it, and now we are. So we weren't going to do a show this week. We were going to save it till next week. But they told us we could talk about it, and we're like, well, that's what we were going to do. So we should do that. And it seems like everyone else is doing it too. So why not us?
Yeah, thank you, Steven.
I don't think I've ever seen a NDA lifted only verbally before. That's a first for me.
Yeah, I don't think I've seen that either. It doesn't seem like the typical thing you'd expect from a developer. But being a smaller developer as they are, they can get away with that and do as they will to build the trust in their community. At least partially right now.
Do you think that that's what that does? I don't know. It's interesting.
I kind of think it does.
I mean, because basically they're saying you can talk about it, just don't show anybody.
Yeah, I mean, their big thing is like transparency, right? That's what they've said since day one is transparency. And I think that if you look at their staff, you can tell they feel bad about having to push back the full NDA. So knowing where it is, knowing that they're pretty happy with where they are now, I think a verbal NDA and an experience NDA, that being lifted seems super reasonable for me.
Yeah, I mean,
yeah, it gives us a chance to loosen our lips a little bit and allow us to really kind of clue in the community and continue the hype train, even if it's only verbally, because everyone is clamoring for information. It's relevant. It's hyped, and they don't want to become irrelevant, especially with other games that are about to release. So this helps with that.
Let's talkers talk at least. I mean, it's funny. Both of you guys have done streams recently, and I have as well. And I know both of you, at least, people come on your streams and ask you about Ashes. And prior to them releasing you couldn't say a damn thing. You couldn't even really, say that there was a test, basically. I mean, so being able to, at the very least, be able to share your experiences seems cool. This is good for us, right?
Yeah. Especially with more to come soon. We'll get into that later into the show.
Yeah. So let's talk about it. Let's talk about all of it because it was a cool weekend. It was interesting. I'm not sure I played as much as I thought I would play. If I had to guess, let's actually poll. I'm curious, and Chad, if you want to weigh in. How many hours do you think you played the alpha? If I had to guess, I'm probably more than 10 hours, but probably less than 15. Somewhere between 10 and 15 hours, if I had to guess.
I'd say go ahead.
I was going to say, outside of the issues on Friday that we'll talk about, I think if the servers were up, I was online for the whole weekend. I was very proud of myself. Got back to my 20-year-old gamer self.
I was going to say, was your girlfriend very proud of you, though?
Probably not.
Couch is comfortable, guys. The couch is comfortable. It's fine.
Damn, I love my kids, but man, I wish I would have had more time. I will probably say I did anywhere between 7 to 13 hours worth of time over the weekend, besides dealing with our first topic, which was the big boss of the whole weekend. And what is that, guys?
The play button boss.
The play button boss. That sucker really took us all for a loop. He was the savage version of a boss that you just didn't want to deal with on day one.
I didn't have that. I didn't have that problem at all. So
yeah, you didn't have it, right? And then I know Daku experienced it, and quite a few of us experienced it. It definitely took up the full day. I was in Discord the whole day. I wouldn't leave just in case, but I was there. But let's ask you then, Mr. Washburn, how was your experience on day one in terms of server stability and things like that? Since we don't really have a view on that.
I mean, later at night, once people started to get into it, probably around 10 or 11 Eastern time, that's when the rubber banding really started to happen, which is basically the story of Alpha 1 is rubber banding, I would suspect.
Yep.
So that happened, that started to really happen around 10 or 11 at night. The first few minutes for me were great. Like I was in right away. As soon as it went, as soon as it was opened, and didn't have a problem logging in, creating a character. It was all super easy. I was in Discord with you guys and everyone else, and everyone was kind of like sharing their status versus the play button boss. And but yeah, no, I was in and going. I think by the time people like Daku got in, I was already level 4 or 5. So I did okay. The first night was actually the night that I played, out of those 10 to 15 hours, I'd say I played from when it opened until when it closed on Friday. So that was that was like 6 or 7 hours basically.
That's pretty good.
Yeah. The funny thing is though, guys, that I took the day off and expected the server to be open at 2 o'clock Eastern time. I think it was 11 o'clock Pacific. And it didn't actually open until, so there was a pretty long delay to even like start, right? It didn't even open until 6. Was it 6 o'clock East? 7.
It was
7 o'clock Eastern time.
7. I was rushing through my workday that day. Like I was
Trying
like,
to get it
man, they're gonna be 3 hours ahead of me. I'm gonna be so far behind. And by the time I got home and I made my kids stay, I was like, wow, they're just opening up the servers. I'm gonna have some fun with everyone else. No, that was not the story for me.
Yeah.
I think I took a nap at one point after the kids went to bed, waiting for my chance to get past the play button boss. And I came back and said, screw it, can't get on the main server, and went on to a second server just to start the experience. And for me, it was when they opened up the brand new servers. There was definitely rubber banding on that server, but like it wasn't as bad as you'd expect it to be. At least on the new servers, because they were using the new servers as guinea pigs to fix the primary servers that we were on.
Yeah.
And that kind of was helpful. I didn't mind being a guinea pig to make sure the main servers were working. How about you, Fane?
Yeah, I mean, so I didn't do that route. I ended up just sort of plugging away on our main server. I was happy to just sit there. My big thing was a lot of people in our gaming community, Axiom, were able to get in that were new to testing. And so that was totally fine. I've done some previous tests before this one. We've had that issue of trying to get everybody onto a server. Sometimes it's impossible. And so I was still there, though, banging my head against the wall.
Oh, man.
I'm just happy all of us at least got in. It was definitely a huge struggle to get in at first, which some people from the outside would be like, well, that sucks. You didn't get a chance to play too much. It's like, remember, this is an alpha. You don't play the game, you test the game. So we're there to squash the bugs, to get stuff done. Like we had a grandiose plan as a guild to do a specific thing, and it kind of got thrown out the window at some point in time, but it is what it is.
Yeah, that's funny. So am I reading this right that we all ended up on like in the game on Friday night at some point though?
Yeah.
No, I didn't get in the game at all. Friday, I logged off having not created a character, not joined a server.
Oh.
I was just like, okay, this is going to be an issue. I've learned over the time to kind of read between the lines as to when it's like we're going to get this fixed eventually, and they did bring it down and say, we know what the problem is, we're going to have this fixed for tomorrow, don't worry about it. And I said, that's totally fine. I'm super happy to just wait a little bit.
Interesting.
And they did get it fixed. It was definitely better by the next day. Most people were able to get in pretty quickly. There wasn't much load time. The meme about the sandal, which people will get to see that eventually, was the most hilarious thing. What was the secret reason behind that sandal?
We'll never know. We'll never. Now, let me ask you guys this, because this being your first foray into an alpha from Intrepid, what were your opinions on how quickly they iterated upon and fixed issues?
You go first, Wash.
So it seemed like I was fine with like it felt pretty normal. Everything about that test felt pretty normal for an alpha test. There were issues that made the game unplayable almost at some points. That's pretty normal for an alpha test. There were parts of the game that you could clearly see the work and how far they had come and the progress and how it looked and how it felt, and that all felt pretty normal too. There were parts of the game that were clearly not good enough yet, like in the actual gameplay experience, and that's pretty normal too. So I felt overall the test felt fairly normal for something that isn't going to be out. A 1.0 version of this game is probably a year away, and that feels fairly right to me, or close to a year away. I wouldn't be surprised if after an alpha 2, there's a longer stretch than we think to get into a beta 1, and that this from now. I wouldn't be surprised if we're a year from retail, with what I felt like a pretty normal alpha experience to me.
Yeah, for me, having experienced other alphas and betas in the past from different companies, this company was really spot on, like with how quickly they were responding to every issue that was brought up by the community. Like, I was like kind of surprised all hell that they were able to respond so quickly for such a small company that is growing rapidly. It really took me aback. I was like, okay, this was like Washburn just said, like, maybe this game can be in beta form possibly by next year, maybe, if they continue at the rate they're working. Steven was even getting on at some points, going to particular servers, doing some particular testing, which he warned us, hey, the game's going to start acting like crap for a little bit while I do what I'm doing. Sorry. And people just understood. And it's like, the systems are basic. The questing was very rudimentary, but they just wanted to give us a taste. They wanted us to specifically work on working up the nodes, specifically work on beating the heck out of any monsters nearby to see how they react. And that was really cool. And even though at one point in time I fell through the ground and I hung my head low, gave up for the night, and then came back on Sunday and everything was fine, I was happy with this experience for this weekend. I think it's only going to get better.
Yeah, they did fine. There's only so much you can do within the current code base and systems, and there's only so much you can fix within the current code base and systems. So, rubber banding can only be solved in the context of the way it's set up now. And if there's a core problem in their web code or whatever that's not something that gets fixed with a hot fix. That's something that gets fixed over a series of development weeks or whatever, right? You put it into a squad, or I don't know how they do their development, but that stuff gets like the real problems of rubber banding don't get fixed with a hot fix overnight. And anyone who, like, if you had an expectation that Friday night you'd go to bed with rubber banding and Saturday morning you'd wake up and there'd be no problems, the servers would be great, that's an unrealistic expectation for an alpha test of a large AAA scale MMO.
Yeah, 100%. But the thing I always come back to is very much they have a problem that's almost you said almost makes the game unplayable, and their response often is, we're going to pull it for 30 minutes, we're going to put it back up, and it comes back up, and it seems like that's not even an issue. So just how quickly they are able to identify and tackle and fix the problems makes me really hopeful for when we're going to see this game released, because I think we're just going to see things getting faster and faster and faster.
Go ahead.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
I was going to say their ability to adapt so quickly, like he said, 30 minutes. Most developers will be like, we'll be back in 2 hours or so. 30 minutes? That's unheard of in testing. Like, come on.
When they did a good job. And when you get that many people in a test, the data comes in really fast. Especially if they're doing it right, then they're collecting tons and just reams and reams and reams of information about every hitch, every issue. Every time there's like a drop in latency or whatever, they can attribute it to a failed code call or whatever. I mean, when you get that many people, it's different than when they have 15 people on a local server testing something. Well, that's literally why you do an alpha test, is to try to get 5,000 or 10,000 people at the same time, as opposed to your studio, which is 30 or 40 people at the same time. It's totally different experiences.
In-house can never really give you a true experience of what it's going to be like for an MMO. In-house can only tell you the most minute amount of information.
So how do we find questing and leveling up and stuff like that? Anyone have any hot takes on that?
Oh man. Yeah, so questing. Like I said at the beginning, some of it was rudimentary. They, I think, are hiring for a quest designer right now with Intrepid, I think. I read some of the flavor text. I wanted to give it proper respect and everything like that. Some of the quests were not very straightforward. An example would be the Flask of Water quest, where you had to light the torches, douse the statue, and all that stuff. That one, I'll admit, I took a picture of all 3 phrases so I could get it down pat, and then I deleted the photos. I did, Steven, I promise. Just to make sure I could get the quest done right the first time, because you know what? I tried not to do that. I was like, let's see if I can memorize this. And there was another person standing there like, how'd you get this to work? I was like, I don't know. I think it was just magic that I was able to make it work.
That quest was awful.
Questing gave an enormous amount of XP, which I thought was amazing. Mobs did not really give much XP, so like I feel like the focus was more on the questing side of things to actually get stuff done. But like quests weren't like readily noticeable. You just had to click on NPCs and hope they had a quest for you. As for XP in general, I found out about the debt system the hard way. I think I went negative like 500%. I was like, well, I'm never getting a level again.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, that's fair. It's fair.
The debt system was pretty punitive, man. Like, especially when you don't earn, like, I've never played an MMO where I can play for 5 hours and only be at level 4.
Yeah.
I was like, holy shit, where's the flow? Like, and so I feel like they tried to set that table. They could have done a better job of reminding us that, that this isn't the way that quests are gonna flow. Like, hopefully there's going to be more. Hopefully you're not going to, like, it took me. There were multiple quests where you would accept the quest, and then you would run halfway across the alpha map, 20 minutes to do something, and then run back. You would spend 40 minutes running and 5 minutes actually doing, the quest. And it just felt so. It felt like a slog, man, and that, it felt like level. It felt like level cap approaching levels of grind just to get to level 4. I'm like, oh, dude, I'm almost level 4, and then you're level 4 an hour later. It was a lot. So I really hope that they have a lot more to come. It's the part of this game that really truly reminded me that we're in an alpha. There are tons of games that have been released 1.0 that had rubber banding. You go on YouTube and look at WoW, the looting lag, from when you would loot and you would be on a knee in WoW, and you would be able to run around down on one knee for easily like 5 minutes because of the loot lag. That was like 1.0 in World of Warcraft had loot lag. That was just, it was brutal. Rubber banding is in every game, even at launch. So, from a technical perspective, to just be having to deal with that, it's fine. But the way that the questing and leveling and that, designers call it the ramp of difficulty, and your flow through the world and the characters and the character development was by far the worst part of this experience, I think.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay. That's so I'll give you guys a little perspective. So how questing was before. I think everybody knows their first quest right out of the gate. You go talk to Sergeant Landry, you go kill your 10 animated armors, and you come back and turn it in. The irony of previous testing was that we didn't really do quests. And the way experience was then, and they've definitely changed it, they're definitely starting to iterate upon their numbers, was a mob might give you somewhere between 300 and 3,200 experience in increments of 300. So it'd be, 3, 6, 9, 12, 15, 18. When you did the animated armor quest, the quest itself actually only gave you 50 experience. So the joke was always just run out, get away from the starting area. It's going to be really laggy eventually, and it's not there. I would also say that there were probably 5 to 6 times the amount of quests in this build than we've seen in previous builds. So I think this was really their first run at quests. I think these were extremely rudimentary. They were the kind of quests that they said they're not really trying to achieve the go to point A, B, and C, or gather 10 of whatever, or kill 10 rats. It's definitely coming back around. I think they're just starting now, and now that they have this person in here who they're trying to hire someone to be a quest developer and do some really good writing, I think that's when we're going to see this in future builds really take off.
Yeah, because it seems like a good chunk of the Ashes team are big on D&D and stuff like that. So having like a good quality quest design that people actually want to read, because I'll tell you, I never read the quest crap in World of Warcraft, and when I did actually try to read it, it felt lazy. It didn't feel like it was supposed to inspire me, make me feel like I'm enjoying the quest. If they can bring that love of like true D&D into Ashes of Creation, those people that are very nerdy and love a good RP or lore are going to be all over it.
Yeah, there's supposed to be a story. I actually at one point on Saturday, I stopped playing, and I was like, what's the why? Like why am I doing this? You know, in the game, like not why am I here and what is my purpose in life, but what why was I like what was the story of what I was doing? So I actually went and looked up is there a narrative for Ashes of Creation? Is there a story? Because I sure as hell didn't experience any of that in the quests. So I guess my sense is that all of these quests aren't actually like or they might be actual quests for the game, but that they're not like the final versions of. There's supposed to be a story here, and they say they literally say it's rich and it's diverse. I mean, every game designer says that, but I didn't experience anything that seemed like cohesive story driven, narrative driven questing in the alpha. So I'm assuming that they're either hiring a narrative designer or a couple narrative designers. Hell, I could do it freelance. I've done it before. But they need to
Nice self plug.
It's true. They definitely need some narrative designers if they don't have any.
And someone said, go ahead. Sorry.
I was just gonna say, in terms of the narrative, it's been stated, Steven's got a big old thick binder full of lore, and I think he's taken the position a few times that his goal is to show as little of that as possible, because he's even talked about through the iteration and through the development and the testing, it's going to feel really bad when you have a persistent alpha 2, which is the intent. And if the lore is there, you're already burned out on the story before day one on the launch. So I have a feeling we're going to see very much these kill quests, these fetch quests that just are there. They're not really part of the world. And once we actually get into it, very much placeholder, very disjuncted, not really a narrative-driven quest. But I was impressed that they already had long story arcing quests, like little quest chains, where you're doing things along this whole chain and that small bit. I don't know if you guys got a chance to do the going to the different biomes of various different creatures and then looking at different flora and fauna. And I think the purpose of a lot of these early quests is to get you familiar with some combat and then really make you spread out and explore the world.
Yeah, I get a chance to. I went from the top left corner of the map all the way to the top right corner of the map after completing a couple quests. So, and along the way, I was currently level 5. I was scared to death of dying to monsters because just my Final Fantasy XI mindset that everything can kill you if you get too close, proximity alert type. It's just going to turn and smash you in the face because along the way, most things are level 15 or so. Yeah. Like I was trying to stick very closely towards the node we were supposed to be working on as a guild till our guild leader said, yes, F that, we're going back towards the beginning area. Let's go work on that node.
Yeah, that definitely, I will tell you this in terms of everything can kill you. A small experience I had that I still find funny is I was killing these low-level monsters. I was pulling 4 or 5 of them at a time and then waiting, pulling 4 or 5 at a time, waiting. Really, I was just there for the money and the currency that you would get in the game. And I was down to, below 20 health. I was definitely below 20 health of the 300 and something I had at the time. And a guildmate came by and I just cleared my experience stat. Finally, I was done. I had fallen off a cliff. I just cleared my 45% experience stat. and a guild member comes by and just for the meme decides to use his little whip at me and just kills me and gives me another 10% right on top of that. It was he's apologized in Discord like a couple times now. He's like, I'm sorry, I'm really sorry about that.
Funny.
Don't worry about it. But it's just, but see, for me, those are the memories that are going to stick with you forever.
It must have been the guild leader that did it. Only he would have been so sadistic to do that.
It wasn't him. It was definitely someone who, you know, they got a target on their back. That person knows I'm talking about. I'm coming for you.
That's hilarious. So how did we find truth looking sus? How did we find combat? I actually found the combat to be pretty, like, if there wasn't the lag and the delay issues, I felt like combat was okay. Again, it felt alpha, but it felt okay.
Yeah.
I played Mage.
Bad, right?
Yeah,
Mage
I played Mage, but we all know who out of the 3 classes, the winner of all the classes, especially in PvP, was Cleric. But I played Mage. I felt the skills felt appropriate. They felt like very grounded in the sense of the universe. The animations were pretty smooth. I didn't see any real breaking of the animations. And it helped me pretty much be able to almost 2-3 shot monsters before they even reached me. I tried out both staff and the wand. Wand was dealing like 6 to 8 damage per swing, and the staff was smacking for like 14 to 18 damage per swing when they got in melee range. I enjoyed the combat. I'm looking forward to trying the other 2 jobs for the next test and seeing what they're all about. But like, I'd say solo PvP Mage sucks so badly. We can't survive if we want to. I got smashed around by a fighter or a tank, whatever. He kept rushing at me and just destroying me. He put me -500 debt. I was like, yep, I'm gonna res and just run away from this guy. I'm done messing with him.
Yeah, it was I didn't mind the combat too much. I think that the general vibe that I've heard across the community on the forums and in Discord is that the combat's not terrible, but it needs some work. And the fact that we have a major combat overhaul coming, that's exciting to me.
Yeah.
I wonder if Debt's gonna stick around. That's a pretty archaic MMO mechanic.
Final Fantasy 11 actually mechanic. Final Fantasy 11, and what was another game that did the XP loss of sorts?
I think Lineage did it.
Yeah,
Lineage.
Truth Eternal likes Debt.
As someone that did it in 11 for so many years, like if you were max level, you lost 2,500 XP. That was about 45 minutes in a group of getting that XP back, maybe less, but like it was detrimental. You lost levels in that game. At least in this game, you don't lose levels, but like it's like Steven has said, risk versus reward. If you want to go kill a person or something like that to get loot off them, but they kill you, you're paying the price for that. But if you kill them and you get it, yeah, you're going to be corrupted, but you're going to get some sweet items out of it. So it has its pros and its cons.
I had a guy.
Are you guys pro debt? Are you pro debt or anti debt? Which team are you guys on?
I'm anti-debt. I just think it's too arcane for modern MMO sensibilities. It's, you know, there was a guy camping a respawn point, killing everyone who respawned at one point on Sunday, and I finally killed the jackass. But
was that the warrior?
I mean,
I'm sorry, not warrior, tank, whatever.
I don't know, but
okay.
I mean, I died 3 times before I, was able to finally get him. And it just seemed to me like I was being like, I think it's arcane. I just think it's not something that modern MMO players are used to and enjoy. The idea of being punished in that way. I think that you can attract as many hardcore old school MMO players as you want, but the name of the game is growing a fan base that is willing to switch from a game like they need to pull people off of WoW, and they need to pull people off of Final Fantasy 14, and they need to pull people off of BDO, for example, and it needs to be modern. We have. I feel like sometimes, and this is what happened with WoW Classic. I mean, all that WoW Classic made me want to do is play WoW Retail, because the fact is that it just wasn't as good as I remember it. I didn't enjoy any of my experience on WoW Classic, and so I think nostalgia for the good old days is a little bit ridiculous.
I actually quit the moment they announced that they were going to have a cash shop in Burning Crusade. I was like, I wiped my hands of Blizzard now. Goodbye.
Yeah, well, that's a totally other part. That's a totally different episode.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's I don't find the debt to be that punishing, and I think that one of the big things in this game is because there are no PvP and PvE servers, that it's just PvP. It's open world PvP. I think that it encourages a few things, and I think it does a good job. I think it encourages you to group up when you're playing, because that guy might not spawn camp you if you're respawning with 3 people. I think that it's going to encourage people to be just a little bit more cautious. Like everyday activities that you just kind of do, your mindless Netflix is on the other monitor gold grind isn't going to be quite so mindless anymore. And in the same way that you have to defend your node if you don't want to lose, your freehold and everything you've worked for, I think this is a way of encouraging people to participate in PvP. And I actually think that when we see the final iterations, obviously the numbers, I think everyone can agree the numbers on experience debt were pretty high, especially given the leveling process. And that's definitely not been fleshed out for sure. I think that when it's paired with a fully functional corruption system, and it's not a weekend alpha where everyone knows, who cares if I go corrupt and lose everything, I'm just going to, I'll end up playing when it goes live. I think those two systems will actually work themselves out to feel really good together.
I kind of agree on that, because there's going to be kind of politics within guilds also. Like, certain guilds are not allowed to kill certain guilds. You're going to be wary of who's around you. The whole concept of grouping up to do content is very Dungeons and Dragons like. It really is. Like, the modern MMO these days, there's a lot of solo content, and it's mind-numbing like BDO is, in my opinion. Sorry for anyone that likes that game. But, like, stuff is mind-numbing. They need to take out the mind-numbing aspect of an MMO and bring back the community aspect of an MMO. That is what has slowly disappeared from the MMO community. What do you guys agree on that? I feel I do.
100%.
So, bringing back group content, community building, doing quests together, giving you that true feeling of an epic journey, in my opinion, is what it's all about. And I think that's kind of what Steven's trying to bring back.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I think that you're going to treat, death a lot more seriously, especially in retail. So I buy that. I'm certainly willing to give it a shot. It can't be as punitive as it is now, because if you died at level 4 or 5, if you died 3 times, you were like that was your whole bar, basically. You had to make up a whole level just to be able to level, and when you can't level because of the lack of quests, the time it takes to do the quests, and the insanely low amount of XP that kills were giving you, it made it tough. So I hope they iterate on that quite a bit. But I do hope that I love the idea of playing in teams. I mean, this is what I do. I actually work in a career where it's all about working with people and doing things together. So, I'm all for anything that makes people want to play and work and learn together. So I'm all for that.
And based on that, I've got a good segue. Group content is all about segue. Group content is all about actually working together to take down big ass bosses. Dungeons, raids, stuff. Unfortunately, I missed this weekend, but I know at least one of us got a good chance to actually try it. Would you like to discuss this, Fane? Because this is your time to shine and show us everything we missed.
Dungeons and raids were fun. Unfortunately, so we can talk about. We're going to inform the raid part of this first. So let's get in there. I mean, dungeons really were just the mini raids. I think they all felt unique. I think they felt meaningful. Obviously, there's tuning to be done, and there's obviously going to be more big, scary, hairy bosses in these things. But super I thought they were challenging. It wasn't something you're going to go into with 3 people. It didn't feel like you could overpower it or cheese it. The raids, and this is the thing that I really wish everyone else got to experience. In an earlier iteration of this game, we actually, myself and a member of Axiom, ran to the very end of the raid, and we got to try to 2-man the boss. That didn't work super well. I think we got it from 100% to 99% roughly. I think it was probably just a rotation issue. We probably have it next time, but
that's impressive though. 1%.
Yeah, we were pretty good. Unfortunately, this time the raid was locked off. Now, I don't know if that was intentional because they didn't want that boss there, or if it was something where on the server that we had played on, something happened, and we were uniquely the only server that this happened on where the nodes stopped leveling at level 2. So we lost a lot of time trying to level up these nodes that were never going to get past a level 2. It wasn't any sort of zone of influence or vassal system. It was confirmed there was some bug in the code. Steven was nice enough to come on and level up 3 of the nodes to level 3 so that we could experience mounts and crafting and the mayoral thing. But I have a feeling that artificial leveling of the nodes is what blocked people out from the raids at the end.
Chat stinks, because I would have loved to experience that. You guys were just finishing up the raids when I was getting on, and I happened to get on in time to see Steven there. He teleported me to one of the level 3 nodes and made me level 15 so I could experience my job at its quote-unquote max level. And I think I spent like a solid hour running around the level 3 node looking at all the buildings and literally how effing beautiful they were.
Washburn, did you get into any dungeons while we were there?
No, and that sucks because I'm a dungeon runner. Like I love that's I could sit in an MMO and just chain run dungeons all night, and that's what you'll find me doing is basically just wanting to run raids or dungeons all night because I like doing that. So no, I didn't get a chance to. I'm hoping to get a chance to next time. But that'll be something I'm super interested in. I'm a PvE dude first, I think, and so I'm excited to just run dungeons. But you were saying, Deku, that the nodes looked really good, and that's our next topic, is just talking about so here is actually the part. Now I know I dragged them a little bit earlier, but I'll tell you the environment looked really good. Like the landscape and the foliage and the trees and the water and stuff like that. I actually noticed there was like a cool graphic effect when you swam under the water. It had the camera effect was different, and it was
like a blurred eye, like when you just got into the wire in real life. It gave you that blurred eye effect.
Super good. Like, it's smart. Like, so I actually thought, I'm not gonna include like the mini map, which didn't work basically at all, and the world map, which I think could use some work. But the actual like world when you're running around, it looked really damn good. Like I was impressed. Yeah. I was impressed, and I mean I I imagine we all have really good computers. I have a very good computer, and so I can play it at max settings and stuff like that. But like I'm still comparing it to things like Final Fantasy 14 and BDO and those worlds and those environments. I think those are two pretty valid comparisons in the MMO market. So I was pretty happy with how it looked.
And for something that was, for those that weren't part of the test that may not know this, they had a set setting on the server. So you couldn't actually set it to 4K. You couldn't do any adjustments to any of the resolution related stuff. So for the way it looked without being able to adjust it to 4K or anything like that was astounding. There was no copy paste terrain, which is something that Final Fantasy 14 did back on 1.0. A lot of copy paste terrain during their testing phase. This company, they passed that test. They made sure everything looked very unique. Each biome had its own theme to it that really shone through. Even the monsters were relevant to the zone. They didn't just throw monsters in and be like, yeah, let's just put this ice monster in a fire zone. No, they did a good job about placement of monsters and the way the zones looked. I was astounded by that.
Yeah, I mean the world feels beautiful, and I think looking at it and knowing what their end goal is and seeing some of the assets that they have individually finalized as just an asset, I think that we're probably only 20% the way there. I think that they have so much farther that they intend on going and can go. I one of the things that I am always amazed by, and we did right before the whole raid thing, and we tend to do this every test, and so I'm excited to do it again, is we mount up, we all get mounts, we mount up, and we just do a big circle of Oliveira and just look at the different stuff. Ooh, look at that. Oh, look at that. And I'm always amazed that I never feel that I've moved from a zone to another. Even without, normal games do that with loading screens. They load you into a new thing. But I never feel like, oh, I'm in the desert now. Now I'm in the snow. Now I'm in the forest. There's almost a seamless transition where it just does feel like an actual world. And I think that they do that even now really, really well. And I'm really excited to see, what's to come here.
Yeah.
I want my frozen wasteland. I want to climb to the top of a snowy peak. That's all I want to do.
There's some snowy peaks out there. Yeah, it took a while to get up there, but there were some snowy peaks.
I heard one person bugged and flew on top of the volcano. That was an interesting experience for what I saw.
Yeah, that's definitely happened. I've fallen. So, fun fact behind the curtain, and I'm glad I can talk about this now. So, myself and another guildie, we fell underneath the volcano in a previous test. We fell below the world. The volcano that you see, if you stand, at what would be sea level, I would say that's probably about 40% of that entire volcano model, which gets me excited because that might mean there's a giant volcano somewhere.
Is there a dungeon? Is there a dungeon under the volcano? Because that would be dope.
That would be. I was just about to say that.
I bet you will eventually see that where you can go down into the volcano and see dungeons. I bet you that will be somewhere. If you level up the right node, I bet you will see that somewhere in this game.
That would be awesome.
So we only have a few minutes left, and it seems to me, based on what we were reading today, on the announcements, that we're allowed to talk about the future ND or the future beta or alpha tests as well. As far as verbally, so we're gonna at least a little. So it looks like what's gonna happen is there's going to be a series of day tests from now until sometime around July, I guess.
July 7th, I think.
Yeah, Wednesdays. Except for this week, it's going to be tomorrow. Tomorrow? Is today Wednesday?
Yeah, tomorrow.
Yeah, today's Wednesday.
Nice. So
I didn't realize that until about 2 hours ago. I thought today was Thursday all day, and I got excited.
Perfect. So there's going to be a test tomorrow, and then every Wednesday from now until July. And that's exciting. That's going to give, us alpha folks a chance to get in and get some consistency. I'll be interested in seeing how many times they wipe throughout those tests, or if they wipe every time. And certainly, it would be really cool to see, week over week what they change and how they change it.
Oh yeah. Plus, this is a big deal that they're doing this now. The fact that they're doing this all the way up to the actual full NDA release, which will be July 9th, means that they are gearing up for that. They are trying their absolute hardest in between these week-long periods where we'll test for one day to get it ready and be what the community expects it to be. Because perception over reality is really a big B, and you all know what I mean. We want to make sure the game looks good, but we got to be realistic about what will it actually look like for the true release. And us testers will do our best to squash as many bugs as humanly possible.
Yeah, for sure.
There was a great meme put out by Cambiguous in the Ash. I don't know if you guys saw that circulating around. So I know Steven retweeted it at some point. But it was a great little video. If you guys haven't seen it, check it out at some point.
Oh, I responded to that. I love that video. Lord of the Rings reference. I highly recommend people go to Steven Shree's Twitter and look for the retweet of it. It's a Lord of the Rings one. Give it a like, retweet it. It's awesome.
Nice. So that's it for this episode. Let's tell everyone where they can contact us, where they can find us. Fane, you go first, then Daku.
You guys know me. It's Fane wherever you can find me. It's Fane.com. All my social links.
Myself, Dokumar on Twitch. I'm a Sunday through Thursday streamer, so catch me if you want to see more MMO shenanigans.
Yeah, guys, make sure you click on their names and their links and go and drop a follow on them. I am Mr. Washburn basically everywhere, including here where you're watching this channel right now. So if you're not following us on this channel, please click on that follow button right now for me as well. We all are going to be streaming Ashes all the time. And probably rating each other all the time as well. So, you're gonna hopefully get to know all of us. And we're gonna continue doing the creation cast because this is pretty fun. So we're gonna take now that we've changed the schedule, we're gonna take next week off, and we will be back, and we'll have 2 days worth of beta testing, alpha testing.
Alpha, stop saying beta.
Yeah,
we wish. We wish.
So we'll have a bunch of alpha testing to talk about, and so we will see you all in 2 weeks. Bye, everybody. Have a great night.
Bye, guys.
Night, guys.